All right, guys, we got a special little edition of Amateur Hour Sports. My little brother, Luke Paladino, is joining the show today.
Woo-woo.
Luke is currently the kicker at Marist College, coming off a great year. He's my little bro, so, we got to give him a hard time during the show, but we'll go easy on you, bro.
Welcome back to Amateur Hour Sports. I'm Trent with my co-host Jake. Look at his numbers. His numbers are insane.
I just have to say, never go all in on the Raiders.
Do you have like a favorite NFL kicker or like somebody you look up to?
I knew this was one was gonna come, so I was making sure I would know. So I would say right now my favorite kicker to watch is either Will Lutz, who's the Saints kicker. Animal, he's a beast.
Yeah.
And then the other is Harrison Butker for the Chiefs. And one of the best things that I find that comes out of that is Will Lutz kicked at Georgia State. And, that's a really low D1 FBS school. And, like a lot of people, like for other positions, the best players obviously come out of Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Penn State. He's so good at his position, and he worked so hard that he went to a school that, wouldn't get as much attention, and he's still like balled out and got the opportunity. And I saw he went 26 for 29 last year. Like that's incredible for a kicker. And his long was 58, and I think it was a game winner too, which is ridiculous. A 58-yard game winner is crazy. And the other is Harrison Butker, the Chiefs kicker. I think the one thing I just love about him is his kicks are so powerful. I've never seen someone with so much height on their ball. Every kick, no matter what, is at the top of the net. It could be from 20, it could be from 50. The man puts it right at the top of the net. And we're talking long, tall goalposts. We're not talking high school, college. We're talking to put it up at the top is very impressive. And he's one of those guys with just a huge leg, not super big. He's tall. He's 6'2", but he only weighs 185, 190 pounds probably.
As far as the whole D1 AA to NFL thing, you see Tyler Bass, the Bills just drafted him. He's got a crazy leg from Georgia Southern, I believe. Are those guys that you just mentioned, and even Tyler Bass, do you see a similar progression for you as they did?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get underlooked, mostly out of high school, because a lot of people really haven't developed. And some of these guys get some attention, but they just were never in their best form yet. A lot of guys get to college, they might still play Georgia Southern, that's a great school, though, that's a FBS school, great, but some of these guys they go into college and through high school they weren't completely at their best, and they end up shining in college, and they just stick through it. Not a lot of guys want to transfer after their junior or senior year, so they kind of just stick with it. But those a lot of guys, I feel their potential isn't reached until they're 21, 22, when their body's filled out, and they've got a couple of years under their belt. And I feel that's why for the kicker position, kicking, that a lot of guys you see don't come from there's a couple of guys that come from Texas, Justin Tucker's from Texas, but if you look at kickers, you got guys from Troy, Temple. The kicker for the Eagles is from Memphis. They're big schools, but they're not the ones that you see every day.
Yeah, they're not playing on CBS every
exactly.
week and Fox and stuff.
And that's what I want to say, because some of these guys, you don't get a lot of attention in high school for kicking, unless you're going to huge camps or whatever, or you're literally the best kicker in your class, you're not going to go to Alabama, Oklahoma, because they're only taking one guy every 2 years for the position. So sometimes they don't even need a guy. Right. So then they end up falling. These guys with an unbelievable amount of talent end up falling through and end up kicking at a smaller school. But at the end of the day, it's based on stats. It's not based on how good your team is or the competition, because it's not based off competition. It's based off your individual performance. And like I think that's one thing that I love about like the NFL and like college with kickers is a lot of guys get their chance because it was just based off how they performed and not how their school did. Because like we all know kids that play FCS at a different position, maybe wide receiver, they're never going to get the look that like Trevor Lawrence is going to get because they say that talent is different, that it's differentiated, you know?
Yeah. Obviously, since I'm your big brother, I know these things, but you know, when you were in high school, there was you know, a few like months or so, I think, where you just didn't know if you wanted to continue playing football or not. And then it seemed like you just kind of found your niche, you know, kicking. Kicking was what you fell in love with. Tell me about like, you know, your mindset when that was happening, and you know, what drove you to just kind of like focus on kicking, and did you ever think that you would make it to the next level, you know, after that decision, you know, being so like, maybe I'm not even going to play football to go into college for it?
Yeah. So the craziest thing about the whole situation with high school, I would say for me, was that before I ended up coming back and playing, because I decided that I wasn't going to play my sophomore year. The deciding thing was I knew I had kicked before, and I was like, you know what? Every team ends up needing a kicker. Like they always end up looking for somebody on a different team or blah, blah, blah. They try to find someone that can just kick the ball. And I knew I could. So I decided a couple days after the season started, I was like, you know what? I still like football, and, you know, I just want to kick. But the craziest thing was that was the best decision because it made me love football again, because I ended up playing offense and defense the rest of my career in high school. I ended up playing corner, starting junior and senior year, and I started wide receiver pretty much junior, senior year. So it got me back into it. It ended up saving me from ending up not even playing football at all, kicking. And yeah, and I think I just found the love of it because I already in high school there's a big different, like there's a huge layer between kickers. Like it's hard to explain, but like there's some kids that at high schools they can't even kick an extra point. And you know, I was kicking 50-yard field goals in high school. Like my junior, senior year, I had the ability to kick 50 yards. So I think that reassurance that I knew I was in a good spot, and, you know, the confidence it gave me that, like, hey, people recognize me, because a lot of schools, they don't even have a guy that can do this. And, you know, I think that's where I found, like, you know, maybe college is a possibility. I remember I always told Dad in the car, like, I do want to play like my junior and senior year. But I was like, I always in my head, I was like, I don't really think I'm good enough. Like, I think I have these moments where I shine, but like, I'm not really there yet. And I just remember like senior year, there was days where like people would come up to me and like would be saying this stuff like, yo, you really need to like go to the next level. Like the stuff that you're showing, like I hit the 49-yard field goal in high school and I made it by like 10 yards. Like it was a ridiculous kick. It was one of the best I've ever had in my career, like into the net pretty much from 49. You know, people were telling me like, yo, you can make a serious.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They're like, you need to make a serious decision about this because you have the talent to go. And, you know, that's when like I started seeing a kicking instructor, and I got into recruiting. And then like at that point, people were coming to me, like it wasn't this dream anymore. Like, hey, like I want to do it. Like schools were coming to me saying like, hey, we have a perfect spot for you. You could start freshman year. And, you know, it kind of all fell in place. And I remember like our dad was always like with me the whole way talking about this, you have the opportunity. And I remember there were summers where we were going almost every day kicking. So I kind of just made it like I just implanted it in my brain that like that was going to happen.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's better to be over-prepared for an opportunity you don't have than under-prepared for one that you do get, you know what I mean? And that's what Dad's mentality always was, I think.
Mm-hmm. So I always so that moment where I came back and I kicked ended up being like a saving moment for me, because now I'm in college, you know, and now I'm there's a chance maybe to go even farther with it after college. And, you know, if I didn't do that, I would have missed this whole opportunity.
Crazy.
Myself.
Yeah. Ooh, you gave me chills. All right. Last couple questions to wrap up here, because we only have 5 minutes on our free Zoom thing. Love you guys, but I'm not upgrading. So would you rather have a stronger leg or be more accurate? If you could pick one or the other.
Oh my God, 100% be more accurate. The most important thing that I always get told is if you can kick 45 in and make it every time, you could play in the NFL. You could play in the NFL if you couldn't, like if you won't miss from 45 in, any team, any NFL team would pick you up in an instant, knowing that there's a guarantee every time you're going to make it that 3 points will go up on the board, that no one will skip over that.
That's
And
true. I would take that.
And, you know, like a lot of kickers can kick 60, 65 yards. Like it's not very special anymore, but it's very special if you can go 50 in and make 15 out of 16 balls or whatever. Like that's special that you have that motion down so perfectly that like you don't even think about it anymore. It's going right down the uprights, you know? Right.
Would you agree with characterization of if your team, your coach, your offensive coordinator know that your kicker is spot on, your kicker is freaking trustworthy, like you have so much faith in them that changes play calling, and basically you don't have to go as far. So like, hey, you know what I mean?
And not even just kicking, you know, like special teams as a whole, knowing that maybe if you're inside your own 10, that your punter can flip the
field. Yeah.
Flip the field. Like that is so important, and it changes so much for the team. Because like there's some teams, and even in college, where like you're backed up and you're not even flipping the field. Your punter's averaging 32 yards per punt. You're punting from your 10-yard line. You're putting it on your own 42, you know? And that's the same thing with kicking. It's like there's a lot of teams that don't trust their kicker enough to sometimes kick far back, or they're having a rough day where you're on the 27-yard line and it's 4th and 3. And instead of just taking the easy 3 points and kicking the 43-yard field goal.
Yeah, you think you have to go for it.
They go for it. I've seen that plenty of times. I think in the game against Butler or so, it was one of the teams. I don't know if it was Butler or Dayton. Their kicker wasn't having a good day, and they decided
I think it was Stetson.
Oh, yeah, maybe it was Stetson.
Yeah, Stetson, the guy was just missing left and right, and they just abandoned on him.
He went like 1 for 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just abandoned, and I'm pretty sure we ended up beating them 19-14. And, you know, like maybe those plays where they went for it and they didn't get it, if they had just trusted their kicker, the game would have had a completely different outcome. So like that, it really.
Also, you're freaking one guy in that game got the ball punched out from. I've never seen that happen before, where it got punched out right before the end zone. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that guy just caught up to him, and I was like, that was one of the best effort plays I've ever seen.
He had like a 7-yard breakaway run, and like on the 1-yard line, the guy punched it out, and it went through the back of the end zone.
So it was a touchdown for the other guys.
That happened in the Bills-Cowboys Super Bowl back in the day.
Leon Lett.
Yeah. Don Beebe.
Yeah, I was going to say Beebe. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, that was a bad moment. I mean, we still won, but.
So who in high school, keepers in high school, had the better leg? Bigger leg, whatever. Him? Yeah, between you two.
To this day,
Jake could kick.
I don't think Jake was good, but Dad will back Jake up till the day I die.
He will. He always does.
That Jake was just as good as me. And I'm like, nah, there's just no way that he is. Jake, I will give it to Jake.
Jake could punt the ball pretty far.
Great punter.
So he could punt better?
Punt like that. Definitely punt. I will take him in the other two any day of the week. I could beat him. High school.
In high school, though. Okay.
I'm saying me high school and him high school.
I think Luke has a stronger leg than I do, and he's more accurate. And I never really had the chance to develop my field goal kicking when I hurt my knee, because the senior year I couldn't torque my knee at all.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But yeah, punting. I think punting, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I think I was a better punter. I'm not going to lie. I think when you said flipping the field, that's all I remember from senior year was just like I would just flip the field.
Yeah, definitely beat me in punting. And I think you never really got the opportunity to kick. You know, like you never really put the practice in. I mean, you definitely had you had the opportunity with how big you were in high school that you could have been like a dual threat quarterback / kicker if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, dad will still back me to this.
yeah,
That's awesome.
what a joke. It's ridiculous.
No, we really appreciate Luke coming out and giving us some really great insights into what the mentality and just all the things that people don't think about when it comes to being a kicker and just kicker position. So we really appreciate Luke coming out, and it was nice to talk with him and just shoot shit with them.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was great to let you guys get in the mind of like what actually happens and everything that goes down, and that maybe the position is more complicated and specific than people might think. And it was a good time talking to you guys.